would be surprised how often I get that question. I mean, even from experienced subcontractors, because the situation is this. There's a project which is under a pretty intensive time deadline. The owner's under pressure, the owner puts the general contractor under pressure, and the general contractor is looking for subs. The subs, of course, are looking for work. That's why they're in business. So the general calls up and says, look, I need you on the site immediately. The paperwork will catch up. We can send you a draft or whatever of the subcontract documents, but I really need you on the site. So what happens is the subcontractor goes out on the site, starts performing work, and maybe the paperwork's caught up, and that's great, but maybe it hasn't. And so I get this question when it just hasn't. When the subcontractor, the one asking the question, is on site and a problem arises. And so the subcontractor would ask me, well, how do I handle this? Maybe it's how do I ensure that I'm going to get paid? Or am I going to be assessed liquidated damages? Or whatever the issue is. And my first question will be, well, can you send me the contract? And then there's this pause. And the sub says, well, that's the thing, we don't really have a signed contract. Okay. Just because you don't have a signed contract does not mean you don't have an agreement. It means that anybody looking at this, whether it's a judge or an arbitrator, has to work a little harder to figure out what the agreement is. It also means that neither you nor the company across the table from you definitely knows all the ins and outs. So if you had a signed contract, for example, you might know that something's excluded from your scope of work, or you might know that you get unit prices for certain things over and above a threshold amount. Well, when you don't have a signed contract, it's not as clear cut. The arbitrator or the judge would have to look at the conduct of the parties, maybe the emails back and forth, maybe the draft contract or communications that concerned the draft contract where each side might have been negotiating specific terms. In other words, rather than just being handed the signed contract and looking at what the words actually say, a judge or an arbitrator would have to dig deeper into all of the surrounding circumstances to figure out what the deal actually was, especially pertaining to the term that might be at issue, whether it's unit prices or scope of work or type of damages or length of warranty or whatever it may be. So if you don't have a signed contract, you still have an agreement. But there may be certain terms that you wanted the other side to definitely agree to that you may not have the right to enforce. And the shoe is also on the other foot. There may be certain terms, most notably certain types of damages that the general contractor wants to hold you to, that they can't be sure you're going to be held to because of the absence of a signature. So if you don't have a signed contract, you'll still be able to enforce your right to payment. In other words, nobody's going to say that you actually devoted work or materials for free. But you may be missing out on your ability to enforce certain things of importance to you.